one of the things that we want to talk about is the most important thing about the lawsuits is the uncoupling of the commissions. Too many are focused on the appeals, on the appeal process, the fighting, what the attorneys are making. And truth be told, agent commissions, they're not unlawful. And even high commissions are fine. And the change is about taking that buyer commission out of the contract of the seller and putting it back into the hands of the buyer agent and the buyer. And I think that most of us don't have a problem with that. Where the problem lies is that too many agents were relying on having that commission built into the seller's contract, and now it's changed. And I think we have Jay here, who is an expert on doing this, on bringing this together, on how to have these contracts written up. He knows everything there is to know about representation, and more importantly, how to protect the compensation of the buyer agent. So Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you're bringing, to this, and how you can help agents, with their commission in this changing world right now.
Sure. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Jay Macklin, we own Platinum Living Realty. I've been in the business since 2010. Before that, I was in the car business for 25 years. So I've always been poked fun at as my title and my job occupation, but also questioned about money. And so I think a lot of what you just said is so true that coaching agents on how to set, collect, and negotiate their fee is difficult because it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to discuss money, and we kind of hide it. We kind of don't bring it up sometimes. And so unfortunately the attorneys got a hold of it. And, I think it was, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later on the lawsuits, but there's a huge opportunity for us as real estate agents to be able to set, collect, and negotiate our fee and not have it just given to us, or it's expected from the listing agent or the seller. So one of the things that I do a lot with my brokerage is I train and coach the agents on how to do that, specifically as a buyer's agent and also as a listing agent. And as you said, Victoria, it's not illegal. There's nothing wrong with collecting compensation. There's absolutely zero wrong with collecting compensation and offering it to the buyer agent for now. We'll see how that goes in the future. That could change. But I think the issue is that a lot of agents just don't do a good job of representing their value and don't have a value proposition to be able to say, this is why you want to hire me versus anybody else. These are your options, and this is what I bring to the table versus anybody else. And so that's what a lot of this is going to revolve around, is going to be the pitch, the sales, the identification of what your value is. It's no different when real estate agents look for brokerages. Why would I go to join that brokerage when I can go to, and in my market, 4,300 other brokerages? I call them a needle in a stack of needles because that's what we are as agents and as brokers. But you really have to stand out, and you really got to be able to step up and go, this is what makes me different. And it's okay to repel certain people because you'll attract the people who you really want. And that's one thing as agents we have to figure out. No one wants to work for free. No one wants to be diminished in their compensation. But I do think that there's going to be a discussion that needs to happen very quickly about what your fee is and what you bring to the table. I was literally just texting two of my agents today, and they were telling me on how the other buyer agent on their listing was upset because they found out the commission was a bit off what they expected. And it's going to have some consequences for these agents who are just not trained. So,
right. I totally agree.
Victoria, so and this is Jay. I'm Scott Forcino, real estate broker with Real Brokerage. Practiced law in this area for 21 years. Currently with the Kensington Vanguard as a title agent as well. I watched this lawsuit, which really at the end of this trial they had as a verdict, a unanimous verdict, which stated that the clear cooperation policy was violative of the Sherman Act, and that's a really serious federal antitrust allegation and finding. So basically, the world we're living in now and the upcoming future is that buyer's agents will not have an automatic opportunity to earn income from the offer of compensation. Buyer's agents can no longer show you a house and be guaranteed income. As Jay said, there'll be an opportunity for those 8 buyer's agents to demonstrate their value and gain payment or enforce a contract if necessary. Well, we got together as professionals, Victoria and our old friends, and I came upon the good fortune meeting Jay is to show there is a huge problem in this country. It's November, the 20th. This verdict came out almost 3 weeks ago. And there's not been a lot of what I call seepage, where it hasn't sunk in. People don't realize that there's a huge problem. It's not going away. The plaintiffs are buoyed by the Department of Justice. And there's the only way around this to survive and thrive is to work within an organization that offers what I call certification of buyers agencies compensation. People need to be a little bit more exposed to a legal study because of the contracts that will ensue. Jay is a industry leader and expert in having buyers agents gain that security that they lost. The question was, should buyers agents have ever been protected the way they were, based on the fact that this entire process was really designed for the benefit of the parties. However, it really inflated costs and unduly prejudiced sellers. So that's the background. That's the lawsuit. We're here to let you know that it's our estimation and belief, and certainly can be supported, that there's some really serious changes, shifts, and real different dynamic. And between Victoria, myself, and Jay and his professionalism, we really are here to offer the way that people can stay in the industry and reasonably expect to make a dent in the universe.
Agreed. The other day I was having a conversation with a group of non-real estate professionals, and I learned that they all want a real estate professional. They're not against paying a real estate agent. So all of this that's going on has nothing to do with, will the public want to, seek out your services? The issue is now the buyer agent will have to present them with that contract, as Jay said earlier, and they're willing to pay for that. They're looking for guidance, they're looking for representation, but this time around, as we move forward, they're going to be a little bit more demanding, and they're going to be a lot more selective on who they choose. So I think having a certification is probably the best thing that a real estate agent can do. There's so many different ways that you can represent a buyer. It's not just a one size fits all. And I think that a lot of agents out there are just, going with whatever works, throwing spaghetti on the wall. And if it works, great, I'm just going to stick with this. That won't be acceptable any longer. So having that certification will give you an enormous amount of options, and you can sit down and look at each situation differently, and you'll know exactly which way to go. So Jay, I'm going to throw it back to you. Maybe you can, talk about that a little bit, because I think that what you're offering is so incredibly valuable to the real estate agent, especially in these times right now.
Yeah. When I first started selling, I would take anything and anyone. And I realized that the first 3 months or 4 months of my career really kind of sucked. Like, I didn't want to deal with these people. They weren't my avatar. Not that they were bad. They just weren't what I was looking for. And so the certification will help you guys certainly build that confidence, so you don't have commission breath, right? So you're not just going out there grabbing anybody out there you possibly can and trying to work with everybody. It'll give you the confidence to be able to work with the people that you do a good job of attracting and that want your services. And Victoria, 100% agree. There's not one person I've ever talked to that doesn't want representation, good representation. And what I always teach my agents is, look, the general public and your clients, they expect expert advice. They don't expect perfect advice, because nobody has it. They expect expert advice from an expert person from in their field, right? Even doctors can be wrong. They're experts, but they can be wrong once in a while. It's not perfect. But what people are looking for is a confidant to help them through that process. Paying for that is no different than a plumber or a TV repairman or a roofer. Yet, whatever reason, we just don't bring it up, and we don't even talk to people about it. And so one of the things that you will learn how to do during this process is you will learn how to treat your buyers like your sellers, just like you would normally do with a listing presentation in any other way. But it will give you the confidence to go, wow, you know what? I am really good at what I do. And then you'll also find holes that you need to work on. And that's fine. That's what this is all about, is that what do other people do, or what do people expect from you from a buyer representation position? And then how do you make that experience just extraordinary? And then at that point, you can set your fee to whatever you want. I was kind of a disciple of the Dan Kennedy, marketing guru. And at one point he was getting $25,000 per speech. And now it's up to $150,000 per speech, or, for an hour and a half of his time. Right. And that's where I think we as agents have to really identify that that's our value. I'm not saying that's the number. I'm just saying once you put a lot of energy and effort and value into what you do, then you can ask for whatever you want. And it's not that scary. You're not going to be the contrarian out there, only agent doing it, right? This is going to be a widely spread. Now I have been, because a lot of agents didn't. So I was out there doing it alone, which is a little scarier. But when everybody has to do it or is going to do it to get paid, then it becomes a bit easier. But you still have to know how to do it, because now you're going to compete on that level with a lot of agents. And if a buyer talks to 5 agents and they get presented a buyer agreement from 5 agents, just like a listing agreement or a listing presentation, you're going to have to elevate your value pretty quick. So it's not hard. It's going to be a process. And we've this thing worked really, really well for the last 7-8 years. And it's changing all the time. We're always competing with different things. So it's an easy thing to get fixed in your business, but you got to take that first step.
And Jay, would you agree that there's different strategies in different situations that would call for lowering your fee or increasing your fee?
Yeah, I mean, I treat every agent like a mini brokerage within my brokerage, right? They have the autonomy to do what they want to do. And I know some states are a little different. Some, states you can't do that without the broker, approval on that. But I think there are always good business decisions, and history will always show that there is always bad business decisions, or learning experiences, as I call them. So you have to be good at understanding the situation and knowing when it is a good time to be able to negotiate your fee, and if it makes sense. A lot of people say, hey, it's a friend of mine, it's my mom, or it's my my cousin, or whatever. Hey, whatever makes sense to you, do it. But this is the benefit of running your own business. You have the autonomy to run and create whatever business you want, given the parameters around your brokerage and your broker. But for the most part, yeah, there's times where I talk to agents and they're like, hey, this is going to be my second listing of the year. I better optimize my income, because I'm only going to have 2 this year. Yeah, makes sense. If you're predominantly a buyer's agent, right, and you finally have a listing, which, as we know, is a bit tougher to get than a buyer prospect, then you should be able to optimize your income based on that situation. It's just a good business plan.
Agreed.
Hey Jay, what is the problem if an agent does not take this approach? What are they going to face? What kind of pitfalls if they're faced in a situation where the commission is not offered by the seller?
Well, number one, if it's not offered at all by the seller or the listing broker, I mean, no one's going to want to work for free. They're going to have to figure it out. What we find right now is that the compression of commissions happened for the last 7-10 years. I mean, we watch it, particularly here in Phoenix, and I call this the petri dish of any company that wants to start, introducing low fee, buy it here, companies. They tend to do it in Phoenix first because it's a very diverse market. But my point is that, letting the listing agent or the seller dictate your income as a buyer's agent is just a bad decision. It's just not something you're going to be able to work with. I mean, you're schlepping a buyer from house to house to house, and you finally land on the house that they want, and you look down and then it's offering you, a very, very, very tiny amount of money. You're not happy. You just spent 3-4 months showing these folks houses, and now you're just relegated to whatever the listing agent or the seller wants to provide you. That's just too risky. And so I think what's going to happen is, there's going to be a lot of agents who kind of go by the wayside. I think we're going to see a thinning of the herd. The ones who take it really seriously, the ones who take their business, that want to grow their business and make this an adjustment, will do very well, because you will instantly start to build value to go, okay, I understand what's in it for me to sign a buyer broker agreement as an agent, but what's in it for my buyer to sign a buyer broker agreement? Like, what's their value? What did they get from signing it that they couldn't get from not signing it? And I think that's the conversation you have to have with yourself, because once you understand that, it'll be super easy to get it yourself.
Right. But you use the word relegated, and the agents that I'm seeing all over social media do not see that offer of commission as any type of relegated. They looking at it as their expectations. That's their income level. That's what they are fighting to uphold. That's what they want to maintain, that standard.
Yeah. Well, the words I hear from people a lot, I get calls probably once every couple of weeks from other outside brokers. We're the listing agent. In Arizona, you're able to see on the CD when the CD comes out the commission from both sides. Some states you don't. But I get calls sometimes saying that my agents are greedy and it's unethical and they shouldn't be doing that. And they got a much smaller portion than my agent did, and it's sad to see that these agents are just not coached and trained. And I think you and I talked about this. I blame two entities on this. Number one is going to be the schools for not bringing it up. In fact, they scare you when you get your license to bring up the word commission. Number two is the brokers who really don't do a good job of coaching and training their agents to help offset any kind of deficit or to understand the flow of money and how that works, but also how you're supposed to be compensated and how you're supposed to have that conversation with people about compensation. And so when the agents are out there in the wild just doing their own thing, you're right. There's a level of expectation, and they get mad when they don't see another agent offering them what they think is, professional courtesy.
Interesting. Victoria, what are you saying? What are you hearing?
So I actually have a question for Jay, because this is beyond the training. This isn't a 1 hour training that you learn how to do this in 60 minutes.
No.
This is a certification. And, we talked about different strategies that would be used in different situations. And, you're referring to, relying on what we used to do in the past. And there's a very good possibility that those commissions will be uncoupled. That is what they're pushing for.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it won't even be about adding to what the commission is in the agreement, but setting that commission right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to us a little bit about what the certification entails and why someone should go ahead and get that?
Yeah, well, obviously, the why is because nobody wants to work for free. And if you're going to run a good real estate business, being a one-sided listing agent, and I hear a lot of agents say this, well, I'm just not going to work with them. That's just not a good decision. That's just a bad decision. I mean, that's, a good side, buyer and listing side. You have to have a healthy business as the market ebbs and flows, right? You got to work with both, or you have to have a team that works with both. But honestly, I think that the process is going to be, that's the why, because we have to get paid and we have to run a good business, but it's going to be about value. It's going to be about setting your fee like any other profession. I don't know any other profession that allows people to get in their car without the hint or the conversation of compensation at all, and spend months and months and go to dinner and lunch and all these things. And money has not even been brought up. And I did that. I was the first one to do that because no one told me how to do it until I got burned. And I thought, every profession, every business, and every consultation or consulting company that I talk to always talks about compensation, what they're expected to get paid if we utilize their services. And so I was able to get into a program that allowed me to do that, a coaching system, and kind of opened my mind to that. But the whole idea is that if you really want to build an evergreen business and be able to consistently and continuously earn compensation by providing great value to consumers, then you have to learn the process of how that goes. Every situation, from the Zillow lead, right? We talk about this a lot. From the second you're at the door, you have 30 seconds from you both pull up in front of the house, you're shaking hands, meeting each other, right? And then you have this 30-second walk up to the front door to open the house. They don't even know who you are. Having that conversation about, what the next step is. Well, when do I bring up compensation? When do I bring up the loyalty agreement, the buyer broker agreement? So all those things are going to be compiled within that certification process, because everybody's different. Everybody's rules are different, but the commonality of the process should always be the same. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be unique situations that happen. But in your mind, if you're building a business and you're like, look, if my decision is not to work with any buyer or seller who doesn't sign an agreement with me, then that's my decision. I have to figure out how I'm going to do that every single time. There could be an exception. It's up to you. That's your decision. I wouldn't list a house without a listing agreement. Personally, it's a lot of money I'm going to spend. You probably shouldn't do the same with a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you mentioned certification. This is I think it's an idea that time has come, because this lawsuit and this upcoming real modification of the way things are being done calls for this. When we mentioned certification, like any course of study, this should take a year, it should take once a month, it should be well attended, there should be a library of this relevant content, professional messaging, and that'll be open to those agents who wish to invest in their career. There'll also be discussion groups and valuable insight offered into the industry. There'll be a dialogue. There'll be much development, I think. And Victoria and I were discussing how we can, over time, feature Jay to boards, to schools, to organizations, and to make this message really, really well known. And it's not for everyone. There's a million realtors in the NAR. We know that a lot won't stay. This is this certification, which could sometimes be a bit rigorous, is going to only affect those people that want to survive and thrive.
Sure.
Right.
Very true.
I agree.
It's powerful.
All right. So, Scott, will you put up information in regards to how to get started on this and enroll in this certification right away? Because I think the sooner everyone gets started, the better it will be.
Sure. We have a Facebook group now. The website will be released soon. We're going to work with lenders and other entities that want to work with agents. The opportunity is to just simply get better and offer others the chance to be better referral partners and better zealous advocates. We all are lifelong people in the industry. I know that Jay had a nice career before, but I don't think the industry could even get rid of us. So we are here to serve, here to have some fun, make great connections with people, and positively impact clients. Most importantly, people are not talking about the clients. People are buying and selling is a huge thing. And now we have an opportunity to benefit them as well as true fiduciaries.
Yep.
100%
agree.
Awesome. I think what you're doing, Jay, is fabulous. And we're happy to be in alignment with you and help agents across North America.
Well, I think we've got a great mindset here. You guys bring a lot to the table as well, and so I think it'll be very beneficial for agents. I think a lot of the biggest position for us is going to be ask questions, because that is always the biggest issue we have is people don't ask questions about why they can't think they can do it. So you can.
Right. And I also think taking the focus off the things that don't matter and putting the focus on what is going to bring your business where it needs to go is also very important right now.
Agreed.
So that's why I'd like to see this get off the ground right away, so agents can jump in and get started. This is so important for our business.
Agreed.
It's critical time. You know, what is that old proverb? You wish people well to live in interesting times, and this is that. Nothing affected the industry like this did.